So we really want to encourage you guys to keep sketchbooks. Sketchbooks are going to be something that you use throughout your career as an animator. It's going to be something that you can use and go back to. So you record all these ideas that you have, say you're in the park or you just have an idea, an inspiration that you have, copy that down, write that down, and know that your sketchbook really is going to be this treasure trove that you can tap into. So keep sketchbooks, keep them close to you, take them with you when you go on vacations, and utilize them as much as you possibly can. That's a way for us to get what's in our head onto paper so that we can better analyze it. So really that is just doing little drawings. These drawings don't have to be elaborate at all. These are really just for you. Thumbnailing is something that I do on every scene. It's something that really helps me out a lot. That is the most fundamental tool for me, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do that, and it helps me explore things quickly and see what I might be able to do.
For me, the easiest way to do that is to do it ahead of time, to plan that out before I'm in the computer, before I'm saving keys, before I've got like spaghetti of splines everywhere in my curve editor. It's a lot easier to just get in there, do like some really rough thumbnails. You know, I'm a crap artist, so I do all my thumbnails with little like stick guys pretty much. That just has a ball so I can see the hips, has a line so I can see where the shoulders are, and as long as I can see the angle of the hips, angle of the shoulders, angle of the head, and then the limbs, that's all I really need for 98% of my scenes when I'm doing the planning.
It helps to me to know, like, okay, I want the ball to start here, and it's gonna follow this path, it's gonna like make this contact, and then it's gonna get out of a screen this way, you know? And then I try to figure out of what the action might be. So for example, I'll be like, yeah, around here, maybe the ball is gonna stretch. And here there's gonna be like a big stretch that, you know, and then we see the whole change of shape, of volume, and then boom, it starts, you know, to go that way. Sometimes I write little notes, and that's just, people just work differently. To me, this has really helped to me to write little notes. So here, maybe I'll write down, like, you know, change of volume, you know, maybe over 2, maybe 3 frames. Maybe the whole thing might not look like this, you know, but at least it helps me to get started.
So video reference can really help you study movement frame by frame. And there's 2 main types of video reference. The first main type of video reference is the type of you filming yourself, doing the action or the acting that you're doing. And the other type of video reference is found footage, that which you might find in a DVD or on the internet. And so it's important to know that you can really tap into these different things, especially when your character does a move that you might not be able to do, like a backflip or like a triple backflip, which you might be able to do, but I certainly can't, and a lot of people can't. So you can really use found footage for a lot of stuff as well. So maybe you're thinking, video reference for a ball? Yeah, I mean, why not? There's things happening here that as beginning animators you might not be aware of, and that's what we're going to be teaching you. When I look at this reference, I definitely see things happening that helps me to break down the movement. Video reference totally helps break down movement, especially if it's not on a human character, because that really is your way to say, okay, that's how this moves, and it allows you to kind of study it and get into it a little better.
I think video reference is one of our biggest and often most underused, you know, tools that has a ton of potential to help us with our scenes. But if you just copy it, you know, frame for frame, you're definitely going to lose something in the translation. You know, what you should be doing is videotaping yourself and then adding in the principles of animation and layering, you know, some overlap and exaggeration and things like that onto the performance.
Like Nightmare Before Christmas. As my wife will tell you, I'm not quite the dancer. So what do? You rent Gene Kelly. You know, you get the best. Fred Astaire, looked at a lot of reference there. And just, you learn from the best by watching. It's not to say you rotoscope. I mean, that's where people, I think, fall off the wagon. But to take it and take what you want out of it and get the essence and put it into your animation, that's what it's about. Because that's going to broaden you as an actor. We have that, you know, I could be George C. Scott, I could be Jack Nicholson, I could be anybody, Meryl Streep, you know. How many actors can have the range that we have the capability as animators to be? You can, because you can pull in all this reference and use it towards any characters on a given film.
So here's some examples of some video reference that we filmed as animators through the years of different scenes that we've worked on. It's pretty much, yeah, we do this stuff. We really are getting up there, kind of making fools of ourselves, if you will, to just kind of get insight into how we might approach a scene. And we might act these out, like we said, just tons of times. And eventually we'll grab people and put them in the mix and see what we get. And it's just a really important part of the process, and it really gives you so much information right off the bat that you can potentially use in your scenes.
You tend to act stuff out in a closed little room, and you're observing yourself. That's what I'm saying with a baseball. You get up off your butt and act it out. You're observing your body.
Yeah, that seems to be the best way for me to solve an animation problem. If something's just not feeling right and I just can't get it, then I'll just get up in front of the mirror and start moving around, or even without the mirror sometimes. Because sometimes for me, I almost feel like I learn more sometimes with like my eyes closed, by just feeling, because you can feel which muscles are tensing in your body, and that tells you where your center of gravity is and where the forces are coming from and things like that. And so, but a lot of times I'll step in the mirror, I'll just go in the mirror and I'll just go, take a move, and I go, oh, duh, yeah, I'm moving the wrong foot first.
Feedback is one of the most important things in animation. If you want your stuff to excel and get better quicker, the best way to do that is to get input and feedback from other animators. And that's kind of why it's important to post your stuff on Animation Mentor for students to see it, for mentors to see it, and to critique your work. It's important for you to communicate clearly, and especially in the beginning, you don't really know what that is yet. I mean, we're trying to help you cultivate that in yourselves and to help foster that and bring that to life. But feedback will really help tune your eyes and tune and train your thinking, and will definitely make your animation much, much, much better.
And it doesn't matter who, it doesn't have to be a certain type of animator, it's just you need to get feedback and you need to get reaction. Maybe it doesn't even have to be an animator. It could be a family member or your friend, and you say, hey, what do you think of this? And just look at it and see if they read it, because in the end, that's all that counts, is how the audience reacts to it.
You get really attached to the poses you put down, and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And even when a director or supervisor or a peer comes over and says, you're so attached to it that your ego is so involved with it that you don't want to change it, because you feel like, I spend the time to come up with this, it must be good. You have a hard time stepping away and saying, is this really good? Or is it really the best pose? Is there a better way? Is it too am I doing it because it's the coolest pose, or it works the best for this shot?
You have to be prepared to show your work in its rawest form. Right now you're used to spicing up as much as you can before you show it to somebody. But you can start showing people your work even when you're too embarrassed to show it. You want to get your comments from people as soon as possible. I can't stress enough that other people's eyes will have a clearer understanding of what's going on than your own, because you'll be staring at your work for so long that you might think it's perfect, but if you have another set of eyes, and in a room as Daly's is you're gonna be sitting in a room with 20 to 30 other animators, you're gonna have 20 to 30 other sets of eyes looking at your work. And they're not looking at it, again, to smash your ego, they're looking at it to make the shot look great.
Here's a couple of quick tips on getting feedback. Remember to listen to your mentor first. Look for repeat comments in your workspace and take those into consideration. Feedback is never a personal attack on your work. It's always meant to improve your work. And that's kind of one of the biggest things, especially for me in the beginning. It took me so long to kind of get that one. But once you can kind of put aside your feelings, you can really take in and listen to what people are actually saying. And almost always the ideas that people give you are pretty fantastic. So here's some important tips on giving feedback. Always start with a positive comment. Maybe that's cliche, but it works very well. Like, hey, I really like the ball bounce. It hangs at the top really, really nice. You got that timing really good. And one thing I see is that when it's falling down, you might want to increase the speed or the spacing there as it's dropping. It's just a nice way to kind of lighten the blow, you know, because there's like lots of things that you want to suggest to somebody, and it's always important to kind of pick out certain things that you like first, because it makes it a little easier, especially when you're in class 1, 2, and even class 3. It's just easing you into that, and also building your muscle, because when you work in the studio, that's the kind of feedback you want to get, and the type of feedback you should be giving your peers. Always point out what you think is working, and then kind of move into suggestions. It works great. The second thing is to never be rude in your feedback. It's important to know that the industry is really small, and somebody who's rude in their feedback, like, oh, that sucks, I would never do that, oh, I would do something better, which does happen sometimes. Those are the people who are usually the first to go from the company, because they're not really working well with the team. So it's just important to kind of keep yourself in check. If you're a very strong personality, you might want to take this comment into consideration, is to really to think about how you say things, and to always try to start with a positive. That works so well. And finally, the last tip I could give you on giving feedback is to give it, okay? Don't hide, don't be too shy. I know it's difficult to give feedback, but the more you give it, the more you're refining your eye, the more you're able to see things better, even in your own work. So I encourage you, we're always talking about going and posting comments on people's workspaces. This is the same thing. It's an important part of your evolution as an animator. So do it as often as you possibly can to help refine your skills. When you start working as a professional animator, there's one extra step in the process, and that is what the director wants. That's pretty much the most important part of the process, but we put it last because right now you guys are students and you guys are the directors, so you are in charge of the vision. That's your job, so run with it and have fun with that. But once you become a professional animator, it's your job to ask as many questions as you have about that scene, to get as much information that you can from the director, to have them kind of download their information that's in their head into yours, so that you have a clear vision of what they want, so that when you start planning out your scene, you have a basic knowledge of the scene and what the director wants. It's going to be that much easier for you to kind of key into what needs to happen for that scene.